that's to present ACSA's highest award that we give out to externally speaking, and presenting Assemblyman Muratsuchi with our Friend of Education Award. So if you'll indulge me, I'll just share a little bit about the Assemblyman. But he comes from a local school board, and the Assemblyman speaks to that and draws from that. His connection with school leaders when he was on a school board. And so he came to Sacramento with a base level knowledge about the intimate workings of public education, and has really dug in his entire duration since he was elected in 2012. I'm going to steal some of the words that were just said by by Dr. Potter and by Dr. Simon that are so fitting for the Assemblyman. Is he's always putting students first, and he's a champion for public education. And he has really, really prioritized public education since he's been up here. He's been a staunch advocate for the local control funding formula, and we hear from you all the time about the importance of you all having discretionary funds in such a diverse state as California. He was here in the beginning and helped craft the LCFF. And we talk a lot about not wanting to move back to a categorical-based system, and no one has fought harder to make sure that we protect the LCFF than Assemblyman Muratsuchi. Not only just protecting it, but funding it, and making sure that the LCFF is fully funded. And when we neared full funding of the LCFF, Assemblyman said we got to shoot higher and make those LCFF base level targets higher, and led that charge as well. We heard from you all, and he heard from you all about the unique circumstance that the pandemic had in terms of attendance. And us being an attendance-based funding system, he wanted to make sure that our students were not penalized and our schools were not penalized for no fault of their own. As we were telling kids to stay home and to protect themselves and their families, the Assemblyman knew it was a matter of fairness to make sure that your funding wasn't taken away as a result, and made sure that our COVID attendance relief was built into last year's budget. The Assemblyman, it's no surprise that we have his bills here front and center on our leave behind. He's leading the charge to make sure that we have a statewide school facilities bond on next year's ballot, recognizing that our schools are too dated. Our students deserve the best learning facilities. So he's leading that charge and is authoring that measure. Yeah, please. The Assemblyman is also prioritizing student mental health. And you all have talked to us about just the system that's currently set up that penalizes schools oftentimes and makes it really difficult to draw down on federal dollars. And the Assemblyman is authoring a bill to make sure that that's no longer the case, that we can draw down federal funds to meet the mental health needs of our students. Assemblyman was appointed to be the chair of the Assembly Education Committee. It was something that we celebrated as staff. It was something that was celebrated by our members statewide, and we heard it. And I think just very much telling of how much regard he has for each and every one of you and school leaders statewide. He proactively reached out to us, to ACSA, in addition to always staying well connected with his local leaders, school leaders, and requested a meeting with us. And that doesn't happen too often, where legislators are proactively reaching out to us. And we were his very first meeting on the education side. He wanted to hear what the priorities are of school leaders up and down the state to make sure that he represented that in the Assembly Education Committee. Assemblyman, very much just appreciate you. I can go on, but it's a great honor to present you our Friend of Education Award.
Thank you very much, Yvonne, for that very kind introduction. Yes, you remember that was my very first meeting as chair of the Assembly Education Committee, which, as you indicated, is about as good evidence of any of how much respect I have for ACSA and for each and every one of you, for all your leadership, all your sacrifice, during especially these hard years that we've just gone through and are still facing as we continue to deal with many of the ongoing effects of these difficult past few years. I want to say thank you so much, for this award to come from an organization that I have so much respect for. It's definitely going to be that's going to be front and center in my office, and I'm going to be very proud to have received be recognized by all of you career educators. First of all, I want to welcome everyone to the state capitol. I was on my usual Southwest flight early Monday morning, and I realized that it was full of educators. I saw Ms. Castleberry and folks from Torrance Unified and Palos Verdes Unified, and I think a couple of other districts that I recognized in the flight. And they were all fired up and ready to go. I was like, I was saying, are you ready to twist some arms and make sure that you're holding legislators accountable? And they were definitely fired up. Appreciate the sign here. Maybe if you throw in some gold, we can make it some Lakers colors. Go Lakers. We got to have some Lakers fans in the room. But, whether it's the Kings colors or whether it's the Lakers colors, I think, conferences like ACSA, bringing people, education leaders from throughout the state, just really reinforces to me and to all of the policymakers here in our state capitol about how each and every one of you represent the diverse school districts, the diverse communities that are California's public school student system. 6 million California public school students. I mean, I always whenever, especially as chair of the Assembly Education Committee, where every single bill that deals with education, every single bill that impacts education, our kids, your staff, comes through my committee. And so I always, keep that front and center, that all of the policy measures that are proposed, all of the bills that are proposed, that we have to make sure that we get it right. I'm having so many difficult conversations with all these legislators that think that they know better than local educators in terms of what you should be teaching and how schools should be run, this and that. And I think you might have heard this a little yesterday when you heard from Senator Newman, but it's a tough job. It's a tough job having to tell my colleagues, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but we need to make sure that we get it right because we're making policy affecting 6 million California kids, representing all the diversity, recognizing that what may work in one district is not going to work in another district, that what works in one community is not going to work in another community. And so I think, all of you being here, being on the front lines of your schools, of your communities, there's nothing more valuable than for the policymakers here in the state capitol to hear directly from each and every one of you on what is the reality that you're facing. I know that from my conversations, hearing from stakeholders, education leaders throughout the state, I mean, the themes continue to the common themes continue to emerge: pandemic, learning recovery, youth mental health, teacher and workforce shortage. I mean, those are all some of the big issues, on and on. And so. I'm going to continue to do what I've been doing in this is my 9th year in the California legislature. to keep fighting, to get you the resources, to let you do the job that you need to do, because I know that you as educational leaders in your communities, you know best what the realities that you're facing in your communities, in your schools. And my job is to get you the resources to support you, to support our kids. So again, thank you very much for this wonderful award. Look forward to continue work with ACSA. Thank you.